I was sitting in my bedroom staring at the calendar on my phone. August 15th had come and gone 5 days ago. My 28th birthday. Just like every year since I turned 18, not a single person in my family remembered. Not a phone call, not a text message, not even a belated happy birthday. But today, August 20th, my phone would not stop buzzing with angry messages from my mom and sister Madison. The words that kept flashing across my screen made my stomach drop. How could you forget the most important day? I had apparently forgotten something crucial to my family, and they were furious. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below, and please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories. You will not believe what I discovered when I finally decided to tell my family the truth about how their forgetfulness had been affecting me all these years. My name is Rosalie, and I have always been the forgotten middle child in what most people would consider a typical middle-class American family in Sacramento, California. My father, Robert, is 55, a dedicated civil engineer who spends most of his time buried in blueprints and construction projects. My mother, Linda, is 52, an elementary school teacher who pours her heart into every single one of her students. My older sister, Madison, is 30, a successful marketing manager with two adorable kids and a husband named Daniel. My younger brother, Austin, is 25, fresh out of law school and working as an associate at a prestigious firm downtown. On paper, we look like the perfect family. In reality, I have been invisible to them for exactly 10 years. It started when I turned 18, the same year Madison was preparing to leave for college. Everyone was so focused on getting her ready for her new life that my birthday just slipped through the cracks. I told myself it was understandable. College preparation is stressful, and mistakes happen. When I turned 19 and 20, Austin had been in a terrible car accident that required months of physical therapy and family support. Again, my birthdays were forgotten because honestly, helping Austin walk again was more important than celebrating another year of my life. I convinced myself that being understanding and supportive was the right thing to do. My 21st birthday, the one that should have been a major celebration in American culture, was completely overshadowed by Madison's pregnancy announcement and her elaborate baby shower planning. The baby shower fell on the exact same weekend as my birthday. When I quietly mentioned that it was also my special day, my mom brushed it off, saying we could celebrate later. Later never came. Years 22 through 25 continued the pattern. There was always something more pressing, more important, more urgent than remembering that I existed. Madison's second pregnancy, Austin's law school graduation, my father's promotion, my mother's Teacher of the Year award. Each milestone in their lives became a reason why my birthday could be overlooked. By the time I reached 26 and 27, I had stopped expecting anything. I developed a routine of buying myself a small cake, lighting a single candle, and making a wish that maybe next year would be different. I had become the family member who was always there when needed, but never celebrated when she achieved something herself. My job at a nonprofit organization helping homeless families became my refuge. At work, my colleagues remembered my birthday. They valued my contributions and made me feel seen. But at home, I remained the reliable daughter who could always be counted on to babysit Madison's children, proofread Austin's legal documents, help my parents with technology problems, and run endless errands without complaint. The loneliness became a constant companion. I found myself declining social invitations because I had become so accustomed to being overlooked that I assumed nobody really wanted me around. My romantic relationships suffered because I had such low self-worth that I attracted partners who also treated me as an afterthought. This year, my 28th birthday on August 15th, I had allowed myself one small hope. Maybe this time would be different. Maybe someone would remember. I checked my phone obsessively throughout the day, waiting for a call or text that never came. Around 7 in the evening, I finally accepted the painful truth. I drove to the grocery store, bought a single chocolate cupcake, and sat alone in my car in the parking lot with tears streaming down my face. That night, I made a decision that would change everything. I was tired of being the family doormat. I was tired of always giving and never receiving. I decided to take a step back from my family and focus on building a life where I mattered. Little did I know that this decision would lead to the biggest confrontation of my life just 5 days later. I woke up on August 20th to my phone buzzing aggressively on my nightstand. The first message was from my mother, and the tone immediately made my heart race. The text read, "How could you forget to pick up the anniversary cake?" I stared at the message, my brain slowly processing what I was reading. Anniversary cake. My parents' anniversary. Oh no. The memories came flooding back like a tsunami. About a month ago, my mother had asked me to place a special order at Giuseppe's European Bakery downtown for a custom anniversary cake. It was for my parents' 30th wedding anniversary, and she wanted something elaborate and beautiful from the fancy bakery that required advance ordering. I had written it down, but with everything that had happened with my birthday, it had completely slipped my mind. My phone rang before I could even formulate a response to the text. My mother's voice came through the speaker like a hurricane of fury and disappointment. 30 years of marriage ruined because of your carelessness, Rosalie. The bakery called me this morning to tell me that nobody picked up our cake yesterday. They had to throw it away because it was perishable, and now they cannot make another one on such short notice because they have a shortage of staff this weekend. I tried to explain that I had been overwhelmed lately, that work had been stressful, that I was sorry and would find a solution. But my mother was not interested in hearing explanations. She told me that tonight was their anniversary dinner party with close friends and family, something they had been planning for months, and that I had single-handedly destroyed the centerpiece of their celebration. Before I could even hang up with my mother, my phone started ringing again. This time it was Madison, and her voice was even sharper than our mother's had been. "This is so typical of you, Rosalie. Always in your own little world, never thinking about how your actions affect other people." She went on to explain how she had spent her entire morning calling bakeries across Sacramento trying to find a replacement cake, but everywhere was either booked solid or could not match the specific design my parents had requested. Madison's voice got progressively more frustrated as she detailed her failed attempts to salvage the situation. She had even driven to 3 different grocery stores, hoping to find something elegant enough for a 30th anniversary celebration, but everything looked cheap and generic compared to what my parents had originally ordered. According to Madison, I had not just forgotten a simple task. I had ruined months of planning and preparation. The next call came from Austin, which surprised me because my younger brother rarely involved himself in family drama. His voice was cold and disappointed in a way that cut deeper than our mother's anger or Madison's frustration. "Really disappointed in you, sis. Mom and Dad deserve better after everything they have done for us." His words stung because Austin and I had always had a good relationship, and hearing him criticize me felt like a betrayal. As if the situation could not get worse, my father called me in the afternoon. Robert's voice carried a weight of disappointment that made me feel like I was 12 years old again, being scolded for breaking something valuable. "I thought I could count on you, sweetheart. Your mother has been planning this celebration for weeks, and she has been so excited about surprising our friends with that special cake. Now she is upstairs crying, and I do not know how to fix this." Each phone call felt like another layer of guilt being piled onto my shoulders. I found myself apologizing repeatedly, promising to make it right, offering to pay for alternative solutions, but nothing I said seemed to diminish their anger or disappointment. The worst part was that deep down, a small voice in my head was whispering that their reaction was completely disproportionate to my mistake. By evening, my family had created a group chat specifically to discuss my failure and what I needed to do to make amends. Madison suggested that I should personally call each guest who would be attending the party to apologize for ruining the celebration. Austin proposed that I should pay for the entire replacement dinner at an expensive restaurant since I had destroyed their original plans. My mother demanded a detailed explanation for how I could be so selfish and irresponsible. The group chat continued buzzing throughout the evening, with increasingly harsh judgments about my character and reliability. Nobody seemed interested in accepting my apologies or understanding that it had been an honest mistake during a difficult time. Instead, they treated it as evidence of some fundamental flaw in my personality. As I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling and listening to my phone buzz with more family criticism, I realized something that should have been obvious years ago. This was not really about the anniversary cake. This was about a pattern of behavior where I was always the scapegoat when anything went wrong, always expected to be perfect, while everyone else was allowed to make mistakes, always required to put their needs before my own. The next morning, I received a text from my father requesting that I come to their house immediately for an emergency family meeting. The message was formal and cold, unlike his usual warm communication style. I knew this was going to be bad, but I had no idea just how devastating this confrontation would become. When I walked into my childhood home, the atmosphere felt like a courtroom. My parents were sitting on the main couch in the living room, with Madison and Austin flanking them on either side. There was an empty chair positioned directly across from them, obviously intended for me. The setup felt intentionally intimidating, like I was about to face a tribunal rather than have a family discussion. My mother's eyes were red and puffy from crying, which immediately triggered my guilt. My father looked stern and disappointed. Madison had her arms crossed and was tapping her foot impatiently. Austin avoided making eye contact with me entirely. The silence in the room was suffocating. Linda started the attack before I had even fully sat down. 30 years, Rosalie. 30 years of marriage memories, and you destroyed it. Her voice cracked with emotion as she described how much this anniversary meant to her and my father, how they had never had a big celebration for any of their previous milestones because money had been tight when we were younger, how this was supposed to be their special moment. Madison immediately jumped in to support our mother's emotional plea. We trusted you with one simple task, just one. She emphasized how she had specifically chosen me for this responsibility because she thought I was more reliable than Austin, who tends to procrastinate, and more available than her, who juggles work and children. According to Madison, my failure had not just disappointed our parents, it had broken her faith in my dependability as a sister. Austin, who had remained quiet up until this point, delivered what felt like the most painful blow. This is not just about cake. It is about reliability, about family, about whether we can count on you when it matters. Coming from my younger brother, whom I had helped through law school and supported through his career struggles, this criticism felt like a knife in my heart. My father, who had always been the calm mediator in family conflicts, looked at me with an expression I had never seen before. I am questioning whether we can depend on you for anything important anymore. This shook me to my core because Robert had always been my biggest supporter, always defending me when Madison and I had childhood arguments, always praising my achievements, even when they were small. I tried to explain myself, to apologize again, to make them understand that I had been struggling emotionally and that the mistake was not intentional. But every time I opened my mouth, someone cut me off with another accusation. Madison interrupted my attempts at explanation by pointing out that I did not have children or a husband to worry about, so what could I possibly be overwhelmed by? Austin questioned my maturity level and suggested that maybe it was time for me to grow up and take responsibility for my actions. The crescendo came when my mother stood up from the couch and shouted, "How could you be so selfish?" The volume and intensity of her voice made me physically recoil. She continued her tirade by listing everything they had sacrificed for me over the years, every time they had helped me with rent or car repairs or emotional support, every way they had supposedly invested in my well-being and future. "We raised you better than this," she continued, her voice breaking with disappointment and rage. "After everything we have sacrificed for you, after all the love and support we have given you, this is how you repay us, by sabotaging the most important celebration of our lives." Madison piled on by accusing me of always making everything about myself, of being the baby of the family who never learned to consider how my actions affected others. You have always been this way, Rosalie, always living in your own little bubble, never thinking about anyone else. The final devastating blow came from my father, the person whose opinion mattered most to me. Maybe it is time you moved out and learned to be independent. Clearly, living here has not taught you responsibility. We cannot keep cleaning up your messes and making excuses for your behavior. As I sat there being attacked by every person I loved most in the world, something inside me began to crack. Not break, but crack like the first fissure in a dam that has been holding back years of accumulated pressure. I realized that this scene, this overwhelming criticism and blame for one mistake, was the culmination of decades of being treated as less important than everyone else in my family. The voices around me continued their assault on my character, but I had stopped listening to the specific words. Instead, I was seeing patterns with crystal clarity for the first time. I was seeing years of being taken for granted, years of being the reliable one who never received reliability in return, years of being expected to remember everyone else's important moments, while my own were consistently forgotten. When my mother screamed, "I am ashamed to call you my daughter right now," something fundamental shifted inside me. The crack in my emotional dam became a complete break, and years of suppressed hurt and anger came flooding out. I stood up slowly from that chair, and for the first time in my adult life, I felt something I had never experienced before. I felt powerful. The room went completely silent as I rose to my full height and looked each member of my family directly in the eyes. My voice when I finally spoke was steady and clear and completely different from the apologetic tone I had been using all weekend. "You want to know about being selfish?" I said, cutting through the silence like a blade. "Let me tell you about selfish." My mother tried to interrupt me, but I held up my hand in a gesture that surprised both of us. "No. For once in my life, let me finish talking." "When was my birthday, Mom?" The question caught her completely off guard. "What does that have to do with anything?" she responded, clearly confused by the sudden change in direction. "Answer me! When was my birthday?" The silence that followed was deafening. I watched my mother's face as she tried to remember, and I could see the exact moment when she realized she had no idea. The look of dawning horror in her eyes almost made me feel sorry for her. Almost. August 15th. I continued, my voice gaining strength with each word. 5 days ago. My 28th birthday. Not one of you remembered. Not one phone call. Not one text message. Not one acknowledgement that I exist. Madison started to speak, probably to offer some excuse or justification, but I was not finished. "You want to talk about 30 years? Let me tell you about 10 years. 10 years of forgotten birthdays. 10 years of being invisible in my own family." I began recounting every single forgotten birthday, starting with my 18th. You forgot because Madison was starting college. More important things to worry about, right? My 19th and 20th birthdays were forgotten because Austin had his car accident and his recovery was the family priority. My 21st birthday, the one that should have been a milestone celebration, was completely overshadowed by Madison's baby shower. With each forgotten birthday I watched my family's faces change from anger to discomfort to dawning guilt. But I was not stopping there. I continued through years 22 and 23 forgotten because of Madison's second pregnancy, 24 and 25 forgotten because of Austin's law school graduation and job search, 26 and 27 forgotten because there was always something more important happening in their lives. "You know what I did on my 21st birthday?" I asked, looking directly at Madison. "I sat in my room and cried while you all celebrated your pregnancy downstairs." "You know what I did this year? I bought myself a cupcake and ate it alone in a grocery store parking lot." The room had become completely silent except for my voice. I could see tears starting to form in my mother's eyes, But these were different tears than the ones she had shed over her anniversary cake. These were tears of realization and shame. Every year I hoped I continued, my voice beginning to shake, but not with weakness, with power. Every year I thought, maybe this time someone will remember. Do you know what it feels like to be invisible in your own family? To only matter when you need something from me? I turned to Madison. How many times have I watched your kids without being asked properly? How many times have I dropped everything to help you with emergencies while you have never once remembered anything important to me? I looked at Austin. How many of your law school papers did I proofread? How many nights did I spend helping you study for the bar exam? How many times have I listened to you complain about your job while never once asking how my job was going? I faced my parents directly. Mom, Dad, how many times have I fixed your computer problems, helped with grocery shopping, cleaned this house, run errands, been your reliable daughter who never asks for anything in return? Always available, Rosalie. Always dependable, Rosalie. Never important enough to remember, Rosalie. The truth was pouring out of me like water from a broken dam, and I could not stop it even if I wanted to. You want to know why I forgot your anniversary cake? Because for the first time in my life, I was too depressed to function properly. Because I finally realized that my own family does not value me enough to remember the day I was born. I forgot your cake the same way you have forgotten me for 10 years. The same way you have taken me for granted my entire adult life. The same way you have treated me like a convenience rather than a person. My mother was crying openly now, and I could see that my father was struggling with emotions he did not know how to process. Madison looked like she had been slapped, and Austin was staring at the floor in what appeared to be shame. But I was not finished. I am done being the family doormat. I am done being the person who always forgives and forgets while never receiving the same consideration. You want to talk about growing up? I am growing up right now. I am learning to value myself since none of you have ever shown me how. The power I felt in that moment was intoxicating. For the first time in my adult life, I was speaking my truth without worrying about hurting feelings or maintaining family peace. I was finally standing up for myself. From now on, I announced, if you need something from me, you will ask nicely and say please. If you want me at family events, you will invite me properly and treat me with respect. And if you cannot remember my birthday, do not expect me to remember anything important to you. The silence that followed was the longest and most intense silence of my life. I could hear the air conditioning humming, the clock ticking on the mantel, my own heartbeat in my ears. Finally, my mother spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. Rosalie, we never realized. Austin looked up from the floor. I am so sorry, sis. I really did not know we were doing this to you. Madison was struggling to find words. We did not mean to make you feel invisible. We just got caught up in our own lives. My father, who had delivered such harsh words about my reliability and maturity just minutes earlier, looked broken. Honey, we messed up. We really, really messed up. But I was not ready to accept their apologies just yet. I am not saying this to hurt you. I am saying this to save myself. I love this family, but I cannot keep loving people who do not love me back the same way. Actions speak louder than words, and your actions have told me for 10 years that I do not matter. I picked up my purse and walked toward the door. I am going home now, to my own place, that I pay for, that I maintain by myself. When you are ready to treat me like an adult family member instead of a convenient helper, you can call me. But do not call me just because you need something. As I walked out of that house, I felt lighter than I had felt in years. I had finally said everything I needed to say, and while it was painful, it was also incredibly liberating. The months that followed were challenging but transformative. My family initially struggled with my new boundaries. They were confused and hurt by my distance, not understanding why I was not immediately available when they needed help. But slowly, gradually, they began reaching out to me differently. Austin was the first to change. He started calling me just to ask how my day was going without needing anything from me. Madison invited me to coffee with no ulterior motive, no children to babysit, just sisters spending time together. My mother started attending therapy to better understand family dynamics and her own behavior patterns. Most importantly, they created a family calendar with everyone's birthdays clearly marked and set phone reminders to make sure important dates would never be forgotten again. My father made a point of scheduling regular one-on-one time with me, something he had never done before. When my 29th birthday arrived, something miraculous happened. My phone started ringing early in the morning with birthday wishes. Not just one call, but multiple calls throughout the day. My family had organized a small celebration that was genuine and heartfelt, focused entirely on me for the first time in over a decade. The healing process has been slow but steady. I learned to advocate for myself at work and received a promotion within 6 months of setting boundaries with my family. I started dating someone who values my opinions and celebrates my achievements. I developed friendships with people who genuinely care about my well-being. Most importantly, I learned the difference between helping others and enabling them to take advantage of me. I learned that family love is not automatic. It requires effort and consideration from everyone involved. I learned that teaching people how to treat you is not selfish. It is necessary for maintaining healthy relationships. Sometimes you have to break down walls to build better ones. Sometimes the people who love you the most are the ones who need to learn how to show it properly. And sometimes you have to be brave enough to teach them. Today, when my family asks for help, they say, please. When they need me, they express genuine appreciation. And when my birthday comes around, my phone actually rings. The best gift I ever gave myself was my own voice and the courage to use it when it mattered most. Have you ever had to stand up to your family or loved ones to demand the respect you deserve? What would you do if your family forgot your birthday every year? I would love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Do not forget to subscribe for more real-life stories about finding your voice and standing up for yourself. Thank you so much for watching, and remember that you deserve to be valued and remembered by the people who claim to love you. Until next time, take care of yourself first.